Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going up against my top 5 defenses to stream for week number 5 of the 2024 fantasy football season, as well as discussing 3 honorable mention defenses for the week as well. It is important to note that there are 4 teams on bye this week: the Detroit Lions, the Tennessee Titans, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Los Angeles Chargers, which does mean there are slimmer pickings at defense, and it also means you're going to have to make some adjustments to your lineups because those players are not going to be playing. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into my week 5 defenses to stream for the 2024 fantasy football season. We begin with my first defense to stream for week number 5, and that is the Seattle Seahawks going up against the New York Football Giants at home in Seattle this week. The Seahawks defense is currently rostered in 20.7% of leagues on NFL, 26% on Yahoo, and 36% on ESPN. Now, Seattle does play tonight up against the Lions in Detroit, so we're going to have to go ahead and hop in the time machine like one of those old school Doritos Super Bowl commercials back to week number 3. The Seattle Seahawks defense went up against my Miami Dolphins in week number 3, and they absolutely wiped the floor with Skylar Thompson and friends in Seattle. They got the W 24-3, and the Dolphins offense had no answer to this equation. 6 sacks and 3 points allowed. Now, it doesn't help that the Dolphins had Skylar Thompson, who is too scared to throw a Hail Mary, or Skylar Thompson, who doesn't know how to read at a first grade level. He struggles with green eggs and ham, but ultimately, it's not just a one-game sample size for the Seattle Seahawks, where the defense has looked very strong. The Seattle Seahawks defense for the whole entire season has been very good, and that dominating effort, pink handcuff style, up against the Dolphins really wasn't all that surprising. Now, tonight, they go up against the Lions, and even if they get bent over a table metaphorically in this game, I am not going to panic off of the Seattle Seahawks defense, because I do believe that the Detroit Lions offense any given game has the upside to look like the best offense in the National Football League. And going up against the Lions, again, even if the Seahawks get reamed in this game, the New York Football Giants offense is nowhere on the level of the Detroit Lions, especially since they might be without Malik Neighbors. Now, the Dallas defense, week 4, up against the Giants in MetLife on prime time. They eat the W, Jameis Winston style, 22-15. 1 sack, 1 INT, and 15 points allowed. And frankly, through this point of the season, I would say the Seahawks have a better defense than the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the Seahawks do play up against the 49ers in week 6, which does mean that they are startable, because the Seattle Seahawks defense has been red hot through the start of the season, but I definitely think there are much more ideal options next week. Next up, we move to a defense that I talked up heavily last week, and they ended up paying off. Now, they should have paid off a little bit better. That is the cold like Minnesota Vikings going up against the New York Jumbo Jets in London. 52.8% rostered on NFL, 74% on Yahoo, and 45.6% on ESPN. Obviously, the Minnesota Vikings defense is not going to be available in every league, but the fact that they are only rostered in fewer than 55% of leagues on NFL and ESPN made me confident enough to talk about them in the video. If you play it on Yahoo, you're probably not going to be able to scoop them up unless you did it last week. Now, last week, they go up against Jordan Love Me Tender, Love Me Sweet, and the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay. They win 31-29, and things were starting to look like a mollywhopping, right? The Minnesota Vikings gave the Green Bay Packers a swirly for a majority of the game, right? The Minnesota Vikings gave a supreme wedgie to the Green Bay Packers. It looked like the Green Bay Packers were going to get mercy ruled, like they disconnected in a game of Madden, but the game did end up being very close. Still, the Vikings defense under Brian Flores has been nothing short of fucking fantastic. 1 sack, 3 INTs, 1 fumble recovery, and 29 points allowed. Now, I know the 29 points allowed might scare some people. The Brian Flores defense has been figured out. I don't really think so. That was the most amount of points that they allowed all season. The most prior to that was 17 up against the 49ers. I think the Vikings might genuinely have the best defense in the National Football League. And while you might say, Nick, that's crazy, well, at the very least, in terms of how they're playing, they're one of the top 5 defenses in the NFL, and they're going up against a Jets team that couldn't score a touchdown up against the Denver Broncos. Now, maybe, just maybe, we need to start throwing a little bit more respect on the Denver Broncos defense's name, because Patrick Surtain II absolutely locks down whichever player he is defending, but the Broncos defense stood on their head in that game. They won 10-9, 5 sacks, 1 fumble recovery, and just 9 points allowed. Now, the Minnesota Vikings defense is so good that this is normally a big no-no for me, right? The defense is on bye. Let's drop him like it's hot, like a Snoop Dogg song, right? Let's get rid of him. But the Vikings defense has been such a wagon that I would end up holding on to them through the bye week if possible. Again, if your bench is loaded to the fucking gills, if your defense is absolutely stacked, Sidney Sweeney style, then I would go ahead and be fine cutting them. But on a lot of your guys' teams, the Vikings might be a defense that you want to ride with all season long. Do I think the Jets are dead in the water after one down game? Of course not, but the Vikings defense is so good. The game is in London. It'll probably end up being a very weird game, and I just think the Vikings defense is really that good that even up against the Jets offense that any given game could blast off to outer space and score 30 plus points. I think the Vikings will keep them in check this week in London. Next up, we got the Green Bay Packers at the Los Angeles Rams. The Packers defense currently rostered in 30.4% of leagues on NFL, 31% on Yahoo, and 28.3% on ESPN. Now, Kupp is out for at least 2 more games, and Puka Nacua is out for another month. Now, the LA Rams, are they a absolute dumpster fire without Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua? Seemingly, no. Seemingly, Matthew Stafford, even in his old age, even though he needs a cane to get out onto the field, he's still solid, right? I'm not going to sit here and rain all over Matthew Stafford's parade, but not having Puka Nacua, not having Cooper Kupp really hurts the offense a ton. I get Demarcus Robinson and these other guys are able to pick things up. I get Kyron Williams has been absolutely nothing short of fantastic, but the Packers defense all season long has looked good. Now, I get Mono Man Sam dissected them like a frog in a high school science class, but the Packers defense outside of that has been really good. And even in this game, they had 2 sacks on Mono Man Sam, 1 INT, 2 fumble recoveries, and 31 points allowed. I highly doubt the LA Rams are going to go out there and dump their nutsack into the mouth of the Packers and score 30 plus points. I really just do not see that happening. The Chicago Bears defense in week 4 up against the Rams, they win 24-18. Caleb Williams did the most suspect fucking celebration ever. He did a yippee, like he jumped up in the air. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. If you haven't seen that, I think my reenactment was good enough, but if you want to go to Twitter, just type in Caleb Williams celebration. It's going to be the first thing that shows up. 3 sacks in that game for the Bears, 1 INT, 1 fumble recovery, and 18 points allowed. Matthew Stafford, any given game, could lock in and go back in time, fucking Marty McFly style, right? And have a vintage Matthew Stafford game. But honestly, with the weapons being as suppressed as they are, I really think the Packers defense is going to stand tall in this game. Like I said, they've been reliable all season, and they're going up against the Arizona Cardinals in week 6, which means they are a fine start after this game. Next up, we move to defense number 4, and that is the Las Vegas Raiders going up against the Denver Broncos in Mile High. 14% roster on NFL, 26% on Yahoo, and 44% on ESPN. Now, last week, the comment section was hating on me. Nick, you can't play the Raiders defense. The Raiders absolutely shit the bed up against the Carolina Panthers in week 3. Don't you know they're going to be bad again just because they had one bad game? And then the Raiders defense up against the Cleveland Browns at home in Viva Las Vegas. They win 20-16. Great year, by the way. 3 sacks, 1 INT, 10 points allowed. Now am I gonna sit here and do tricks, SSX, the video game style, right? Am I gonna sit here and give the Hawk 2 special to the Las Vegas Raiders defense? Of course not. I'm not gonna sit here and give them the fellatio. But going up against the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix has proven to be great, Tony the Tiger style, for fantasy football all season long. Now, they are division rivals, so maybe Bo Nix pulls a rabbit out the hat and has a decent game. That wouldn't be all that crazy, but I do believe that streaming defenses up against the Broncos will be profitable all season long. And the Jets defense, frankly, didn't have that great of a game. I understand that the offense was limp dick. They were in need of a honey pack. But the defense, I thought, would have gotten to Bo Nix a little bit more. They had 0 sacks in that game, 1 fumble recovery, 10 points allowed. Again, when you only allow 10 points and you have the Jets offense with Aaron Rodgers, Breece Hall, who was fucking useless, Garrett Wilson, who was just running sprints out there, Alan Lazard, Braylon Allen, right? Tyler Conklin. When you have these weapons, you'd think they'd put up more than 9 points, right? Now, they are playing the Steelers in week 6, the Raiders, that is. And while I don't love the Steelers offense, right, I don't think anyone out there, even Steelers fans, would be like, oh yeah, I love the Steelers offense, right? I still don't really feel confident enough in the Raiders defense due to them being very spotty. I view the Seahawks, the Vikings, and the Packers on a different tier, right? It feels like you're jumping down a step when you go to the Raiders. Are they a bad stream by any means? No, but they have been very, very spotty this season. Before we move on into the final defense to stream and then the 3 honorable mentions, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our sponsor over at Underdog. Now, if you're new to Underdog and sign up with code Notorious, you'll be able to claim your free pick. Your free pick for tonight, Monday Night Football, Tyreek Hill higher than half of a total yard. If you're watching this video after Monday Night Football, you're watching this Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, maybe even Sunday. If you use promo code Notorious or click on the link in the video description, you will get something very similar to this. So some different player higher than half of a total yard. You match that with any other player going on Thursday Night Football, not on the Dolphins or any of the players on Sunday or Monday. And both your picks hit, you'll get 3 times what you put into your pick'em. If you do more than 2 picks, the payout will obviously be higher. Again, sign up with promo code Notorious to claim your free pick higher than half a total yard for Tyreek Hill, plus a first time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Again, promo code Notorious. Get that free pick plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Final defense to stream on the week. Now, this is where we are really kind of diving into the bottom of the barrel here, and it's going to be the Indianapolis Colts at the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is what happens when the matchups are real rough and the Lions, Titans, Eagles, and Chargers are on bye. Once there starts being more teams on bye week, it starts to get more and more suspect, especially since a lot of the defenses that I actually like this week are heavily owned overall, cumulatively, on NFL, Yahoo, and ESPN. So the Colts at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, Doug Peterson seemed absolutely shook to the fucking core that a reporter asked him, hey, do you feel safe with your job? And he's like, how could you ask me that? How could you ask me that? The Jaguars have been trash this whole entire season. Besides that game up against my Dolphins, where they blew it, they haven't been great. And Doug Peterson might not have a job on Monday. His key card might not work, like that old school Jets clip. The Colts defense has been better than I give them credit for. Normally, I take a dump right on the chest of the Colts, Cleveland Steamer style, right? I make fun of the defense all the time, but they actually haven't been as bad in fantasy as you may think. Again, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, the Colts defense is elite, but a lot of defenses can look elite up against the Jaguars. Now, the Colts up against the Steelers. Justin Fields, they win 27-24, which absolutely made my pockets hurt, as I was pretty big on the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I did end up winning in DFS. I won $1,500 on Sunday, but who's counting, right? Just me, of course, and my fiance, who's going to steal half the money. That's a joke. Shout out to you, Nicole. 4 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries, and 24 points allowed for the Colts defense. Again, they win 27-24. Again, not going to sit here and pretend like the Colts defense is the fucking 85 Bears, but up against the Jaguars, I think they might look good. Now, the Texans, they win 24-20. The defense this year of the Texans looks very deflated. Like last year with the head coach, D'Amico Ryans, like things, they were buzzing. And on defense this year, they just look a little bit lost. They need a map or they're stuck on an island or something. But, you know, I'm not going to sit here and just berate the Texans defense. They still won the game, 1 sack and 20 points allowed. So again, I'm not just going to sit here and really sing the praises, bang the drum, the metaphorical drum for the Indianapolis Colts. It's more just me streaming against the Jaguars and me acknowledging that the Colts defense is at least better than I and many have given them credit for. Again, they're not amazing by any means, though. Final defenses to stream are going to be the honorable mentions. Now, we begin with the Chicago Bears versus the Carolina Panthers. This one is pretty self-explanatory. The Chicago Bears defense is pretty solid, and Andy Dalton has gotten this Carolina Panthers offense whipped into shape. They're playing a lot better than they did under that midget Bryce Young, but frankly, I do think that Andy Dalton could throw multiple interceptions. Andy Dalton isn't very mobile, so he might get smashed in by the Chicago Bears defense. They are owned in too many leagues for me to actually say, oh, you got to pick up the Bears defense. But frankly, the Bears would have been inside of that tier with the top 3 defenses, the Seahawks, the Vikings, and the Packers. The Miami Dolphins are up next, up against the New England Patriots in Foxborough. They are also owned in too many leagues to be mentioned. Now, the Dolphins are yet to play tonight up against the Titans. I do expect, hopefully, this is not really a biased take, just that the Dolphins defense at least showed up. They showed up against Geno and the Seattle Seahawks last week. While the defense is going to be down a player or two, I think our number 2 corner is going to be Ethan Bonner, which is just insane, but that's what we're going to have to rock with. I think, though, they will look good up against Will Levis. Hopefully, knock on wood, and I think they'll be able to suffocate the Patriots' offensive attack that frankly just isn't very good at all. Even if they throw Draco May out there, who I think would definitely be better than Jacoby Brissett, I still think the Dolphins' defense will be able to get it done. And then finally, we got the Denver Broncos going up against the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, to me, the reason why they didn't make the video is frankly just because they feel suspect, right? They're another one of those defenses, kind of like the Colts, that everyone unanimously just makes fun of, but they're sneaky good. And the Broncos have been pretty good for the last 2 weeks. Again, they looked amazing up against the Jets. Is that more that the Jets offense played bad, or maybe the Jets offense is just fugazi? They played really good up against bad defenses. Or is it that the Broncos have a good defense, or is it probably a happy medium in the middle? More likely, in my opinion, it's a happy medium in the middle. Again, I definitely like the other defenses more than the Broncos, but if you wanted to argue, I like the Broncos defense against the Raiders and Gardner Minshew better than I like the Indianapolis Colts up against T-Law, Touchdown Jesus, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I wouldn't argue with you about that too much. Thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If you did end up enjoying today's video, hit that like button, smash that like button like you're playing Mike Tyson's Punch Out. Hit that subscribe button if you are new to the channel. It would help me out a ton. Make sure that you check out the waiver wire video later, and you come back on Tuesday for the wide receiver and running back start sit videos. There's going to be a video on your screen right now that you could check out as well. It might not technically be old from last week because maybe you're watching this before the waiver wire video comes out, but if you're watching when the waiver wire video is already out, then the waiver wire video will be on your screen. Again, check out Underdog Fantasy, promo code Notorious to get that free pick, plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Love you guys all so much from deep down in my heart. Hope you guys have a great one. Shout out Wayne Gretzky. Have a good one as always. Good boy.